Good morning. Today I'd like to talk about the Occupy Wall Street and how they heckled the Ron Paul veterans speech that he did in Iowa last night. And I watched it all on C-SPAN, and I was very upset with that. And then today I look in the news, and they're on the outside of the Ron Paul headquarters, and even though the headquarters is closed, they won't get off the sidewalk. Of course, the business people in the area didn't want them around and everything, and so they had to get the police out there to arrest them and cite them for trespass. And it's kind of sad. Basically, one of the spokeswomen, I think, for the Occupy Wall Street, they were talking about that they were upset with Ron Paul because he wants to dismantle the EPA. And that really set off a spark with me, because I was a master auto mechanic for probably 35 years. And I worked on cars in the 1960s. I remember in '68 they came out with the Clean Air package, which was the first version of the emission control. '75 was a big year because they added the catalytic converter, and then the computerization in the 1980s, and fuel injection, and the carburetor went away, and on and on and on. And later in my career, I was a technical college instructor, and about, I'm going to say 1994, somewhere around there, Washington State, where I was living at the time, decided to put in a what they call the ASM, which is a simulated, it's a simulated mode, 120-second emissions test at all cars. I believe it was every other year. Kind of forgot, but they had to pay, I don't know, $40 or whatever. They had to go to a testing site because they didn't want the garages to have the testing sites, and so they'd go have the car tested, and then if it failed, then it had a rejection slip, and then they had to take it to a certified mechanic to get it fixed. And I don't mean a ASE certified mechanic, I mean a Washington State emissions specialist. And I was teaching in the college there and was a master, and I also had the level 1 performance and a lot of dealer training stuff. So they made me into one of the instructors. So I went to Bellevue, Washington, to the well, it's actually a combination of the U.S. EPA and the Washington State EPA and air quality programs. And for the first time in my life, now I'm talking about 1994, the first time in my life I finally understood why they did emission controls. Why couldn't they have done that in 1967 or whenever they came out with the Clean Air package? I don't understand. Well, actually, you can go back to '64 in California when they started with the PCV valve, but something happened there to where it was just this giant bureaucracy coming down on the auto manufacturers, coming down on the states, and threatening to withdraw highway project money and all these, almost whips and chains type sadism type thing with these big, factors fighting with each other, when, the pure thing, all they need to do is sit down and understand each other. And but no, it was a big mess, and it did finally get cleaned up there in '94. I was very pleased with the way it happened. But when I think about, all the waste and everything from, say, '64 all the way up through '94, 30 years of misunderstandings. Because, when you walk up to somebody and you say, do this, and, here's the law, and if you don't do it, you're going to go to prison, and, da 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 da, well, there's a resentment there, because you're not saying, okay, we got dirty air, it's really bad. There are people in hospitals, with lung problems, and it's, here, let's go there and see that they're actually there, and make a film, whatever, sit us mechanics down, help us understand, what's going on. No, got to do the big law thing, flex the muscles, and do all the, scary, you're going to prison stuff. I remember when catalytic converters came out, they were bed type, and they clogged up real easy, especially if somebody, ran the top of the engine rich through the carburetor and all that, and it'd clog up, and then, they didn't have any power. Now, but it was more than the catalytic converter. They went down to 8-to-1 compression ratio. A lot of this stuff you probably don't understand, but the bottom line is that there's the government come down and said do this, do that, and the manufacturers, they look around and I like some of the manufacturers' little sayings. If it's in the bin, bolted in, they go back and they look at this and look at that and they test this, that, because they're trying to save their cost. It's not sand it. Like if they got to put $1,800 worth of emission controls on your car, they're going to charge you $2,200 for it, right? And then if they can get away with it, by making low quality parts and all this stuff, yeah. And then then you had the safety stuff too. Later on it became airbags, but in the beginning it was passive restraints. The crumple zones on the when you get in a collision and all that. Later on airbags. Those things all get transferred right to the customer. You remember cars were $39.95. You could buy a Chevelle 396 and 68 for $3,999. Look at them now, 25, 30 grand. And so a lot of that stuff is because everybody was it's kind of like a bunch of donkeys. They're all getting. I used to resist it. I did. I thought that in the beginning, I thought the small control stuff was a bunch of ooey. I didn't think it was, worth my time and having to deal with all this stuff. There wasn't really very much training with it, and you had to kind of figure it out on your own. You should have seen some of the vacuum hose setups they had in the 70s, especially in Ford. Oh my God, you had to be a vacuum hose witch or something to fix those. And, it was just really bad. So when I say, the Occupy Wall Streeters, and they're all hollering about, Ron Paul wanting to tear apart the EPA. Well, if EPA had been a lot nicer about how they do things, and not all this top down, we're going to, take away your highway, or we're going to throw you all in jail or whatever, I think things would, and why do they need so many and build a big fat building in every town, practically, or every major city, and fill it full of suits, it's just a mess. And that, I think, is what we're trying to do, is we're just trying to stop this mess. A lot of those people now are my age, retirement age. Hey, take a walk, go retire. You need to get rid of the stress anyway. And just don't hire them back. And, yeah, you need to go after these really awful, ugly polluters. I mean, I'm with you 100% on that. Conservatives, that's what conservative means. Some guys taking a bunch of stuff and, dumping it in the middle of the forest in the national parks. They need to hang that guy big time. They ought to give him a shovel and make him clean it up. And the manufacturers, they need to be, policing themselves. And why do you want to kill your customer? Every time you pollute and everything, you're killing your potential customer. Well, that doesn't make good sense. So anyway, I better shut up. This is getting too long. All right. Talk to you later.